Well. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. We got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk Joey Batson's retirement, Lee Corso's retirement, talk a little top 5 Clemson safeties of all time, and maybe even get in a little early look at that LSU Clemson game coming up, week 1 of the 2025 college football season. All of that and coming up and more in tonight's show. Before we get into tonight's show, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We're trying to get closer and closer to that 6,000 subscriber mark, so your help with that will be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button while you're in here. It really helps us out on these live videos. And then share these videos with all of your college football friends, family, whoever likes to consume college football content. Send them our way, and that would be greatly appreciated. Help us grow our great audience that we have here, the live chat section. And then last but certainly not least, we got the super chat feature available for you guys. So if you guys would like to hit that super chat and support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show, we'll be sure to read and respond to your question and or comment that is attached to that super chat. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, brother? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Watching that that baseball and softball game last night, it has me feeling like really just kind of rejuvenated. It was a long day today, but when you were doing your preamble, I just thought back to that, both of those games, and I was like, man, it makes me want to run through a wall. I mean, Clemson athletics is in a really good spot right now, so yes. I can't really complain. When life is being life, you always can fall back on your sports teams. That feels good to say right now.
Yeah, that's right. I hear you. No doubt about that. Those baseball and softball games last night were absolutely insane. 2 huge wins for both the programs. Tennessee, the softball game, or the softball team over Tennessee, number 1 team in the country. I watched that whole game from start to finish, and it was it was a crazy game. Errors on both sides, a crazy call here or there, controversy, I'm sure. But what a crazy way to end it. Great play by the center fielder, and turning that double play just to kind of seal the deal there. Robbed a base hit for sure. And then, the baseball side of it, the guys get it done 3-0, 5 different pitchers, only allowing, I think, 2 hits on the night. Just great day to be a Clemson Tiger yesterday. It's always a great day, but yesterday especially, because both baseball and softball they're rolling at the right time, right as we're getting towards the postseason. So hopefully
they're supposed to be SEC.
What's that?
I said they're supposed to be SEC. It was really cool to see. Just get that win over Tennessee. Beating Tennessee in anything right now is a good thing, because that fan base has certainly gotten their opportunities to rag on Clemson over the last couple of years in a couple of different sports. So it felt good to get that win, and then obviously beating Georgia in anything is, there's nothing like it. So a top 10 win, and for the softball team, that was our first win over a number 1 team, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, first time in program history that we beat the number 1 team in the country. So that bodes well, and that's especially for the softball team. You mentioned Tennessee, but especially for that softball team, they've come close a couple times to kind of taking down Tennessee, and last night was kind of finally their night where they came through. And me and you've talked about this off air, and I know this isn't a softball show, but it's so funny the contrast between last year's team and this year's team. And I think you're the one that actually mentioned it, but it's really true in the fact that last year's team seemed to find a way to lose close games. They seem to, the games just seem to slip away from them at the end. And this year's team, full of, where you're leaning heavily on a lot of freshmen. This year's team, it started out rough in that Clearwater tournament early in the season. I remember me and you talking after that tournament. And we were like, man, this is going to be a long softball season. But they really turned it around. They've really gelled throughout the year. And the exact opposite of last year's team, this team just finds a way to win close games. I mean, I can't count how many games I've watched this year where, they're either losing late or it's a nail biter, and they just they get the hits in the right moments, right? They get that situational hitting that they did not have last year. So it's fun to watch, and hopefully they can keep the momentum going. And I mean, not bad for taking down the number one team in the country for the first time in program history.
On the road too. I mean,
on the road.
Just a great play. And it felt like they were going to let it slip away. They took that 3-1 lead, and Tennessee got they scored their 2 runs, and didn't they score their 2 runs off an error, or did we? I know we scored off of an error.
I think their 1 run was it. I can't remember if it was off an error, but it was kind of due to an error that they got that run, because that ball that Maddie Moore fielded at second, she kind of underhanded it to Nola at first, and she dropped the ball. So we would have had 3 outs prior to that run scoring if that error didn't happen. So that error kind of resulted in that run, but I can't remember exactly if that I don't think that run was off of an error, but that person was on base because of an error.
Yeah, man. But they found a way. Tennessee sends it to extras, and they never back down. I mean, shout out to Brooke McCubbin. I mean, just nails. In that big spot, pitching, keeping them off the board. I mean,
she's so good coming in late in games when it's close. Yeah. Like she's that pitcher you want in there. Late in games when it's close, because she just goes after batters. Like, she don't throw a lot of balls. She's not messing around. She's going right at batters, trying to get them out. So that's always a good thing. And I mean, that's a tough pitcher Tennessee's got, man. Manufacturing as many runs as they did, 4 runs off of that pitcher, that's pretty special. So
they found a way, man.
They found a way.
I mean, you mentioned the baseball team. I mean, they're like the softball team. They just the baseball team has won in so many different ways this year. They've won scoring double-digit runs. They've won pitching duels. They've run ruled teams.
Yep.
It's been every sort of way you can win a baseball game. This team has found a way to do it. And obviously, it's a midweek game, and obviously both teams aren't throwing their best arms, but that Georgia lineup leads the country in home runs, and you held them to 0 runs on 5 hits?
Yeah, something like that. It wasn't very many hits.
No, like that's incredible, man. I mean, Talon Bell in his first start
against that team, against that
team, he went. What do you go 4 2/3? Of scoreless baseball. And then McGovern, McGovern hit the first 2 batters and then got out of the inning, and then you had Reed Garris come in and he did his thing, and then of course Lucas Malstedt. I mean, what else is there to say? He has the Clemson record for single season record for saves, and we still have 16 games left in the regular season. It's crazy.
They have 3 hits.
3 hits.
Yep, 3 hits.
Ridiculous, man. Against that lineup, every single one of it seemed like their entire lineup had a plus 900 OPS. And they have 5 players with double-digit home runs. I'm like, what do you?
That's a tough lineup to face. Yeah. And you mentioned not pitching your best, but it was just kind of a team effort win. I mentioned 5 pitchers out there, only allowing 3 hits. And you created just enough offense to get it done for the 3-0 score. And not a game that you were going to. You got to be careful, right? Because Clemson baseball plays on Thursday, right? We got the North Carolina State series starting on Thursday, not on Friday. So you got one less day. So you got to kind of be careful how you pitch that game. Although going into a big SEC ACC matchup, you really want to win, but put yourself in Coach Beckett's shoes. Like, you got to be careful because you can't exhaust your bullpen, trying to win a midweek when you got a big conference matchup coming this weekend. So, got it done. It was a great Tuesday night for the Clemson Tigers. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, hell, even lacrosse, I think, advanced. Are they in the NCAA tournament right now, or I think the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And I think they won their first game. So, man, it's just a good time for Clemson athletics right now.
Yeah.
Shout out to you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in. Before we kind of dive into our playing portion of the show, we got Isaac Smith in the chat. He says, yo, John, one of the OGs, one of our I believe our first moderator.
Our first moderator.
Tiggs. I can't remember.
Tiggs, one of them. They can fight it out. And,
they can
claim the first one. I don't know.
I don't know who we physically gave the mod first to first. It might have been. I can't remember.
That was a long time ago. I can't remember that far back.
We've actually been doing this long enough. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Zachariah's in here. What's good? Wet Socks. One of the top 5 usernames of all time.
Yes.
Shout out Gamecock JT for showing everyone what South Carolina fans are like. Yeah, that whole lore was crazy. I was not expecting that this morning, but it was good entertainment on the timeline for sure.
Yeah.
Arthur's here. Yeah. Okay. So it was the ACC tournament. Yeah. I could not remember for the life of me. David's in the chat. Good to see you. And Intelligent Savage is also here. What's up, my man?
Yes, sir.
And I think that's everybody so far. Once again, thank you guys for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. It's always, when we're in the off season, things kind of start to slow down and football's not on everybody's mind.
That's right.
But we appreciate you loyal listeners for sure. Yeah.
So every single one of you, all 25 of you in the live chat right now, thank you so much for showing up on a random Wednesday, at the end of April to talk Clemson football. And I know we just talked about Clemson softball and baseball for the last 15 minutes, but hey, got to give the other sports their due love on the show every now and then. All right, Jordan. Well, let's go ahead and roll into the show tonight. We got a couple different segments to get into, and we're going to lead the show tonight with Joey Batson announcing his retirement. Longtime strength and conditioning coach for the Clemson Tigers, even predates one Dabo Swinney with the Clemson program. So a guy that is known around Clemson, South Carolina, loved amongst the players and the fans and everybody. But he's gonna call it quits after this season. He did announce that this will be his last season as the Clemson Tigers head strength and conditioning coach. So, Jordan, a couple angles here that I want to talk about. One, I want to give Joey Batson his props for everything that he's done for the program, first and foremost. I mean, this is a guy that has helped take Clemson to the heights that they've gone. 2 national titles, all the national championship appearances, all the playoff appearances, all the ACC championships. And he's been an integral part of that. So let's give him some love on here. And then also, what does the path without Joey look like? Are they going to promote from within? Are they going to go do a national search for a brand new big hire at the head strength and conditioning coach? Kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first on Joey Batson, it's Joey Batson has been at Clemson about his first season was, did he come in with Tommy Bowden?
I think so. Yes.
I want to say he did, but
I'll check it while you talk.
It's been multiple decades he's been at Clemson, like longer than I've been alive almost. Like he's been a fixture of what Clemson football has been. And, everyone obviously knows him from the fourth quarter video and that everybody loved that. But I think when you listen to the players and you listen to the coaches and everybody that worked with him, you see kind of what impact he had on them as people. He's just a person first guy in a job where you have to be. You kind of have to be, because when it comes to strength and conditioning, and when it comes to getting these players in shape, you have to be able to curate a plan for every individual player, depending on their needs and their body types, all sorts of things. And he did that as well as anybody that's done it here. So it's not going to be the same without him. His intensity was infectious. Like he could make me run through a wall. And it's not going to be the same without him. And
yeah, I mean that when I think of Joey Batson, like one of the memories I think of is like how Clemson does those videos every year where they ask like one of the former players or somebody to like make a hype video. And that one year, I think it was one of the national championship runs. It was Joey Batson, screaming and yelling and saying they don't put rings on smooth hands, and all his catch slogans, and just like he's that high energy, like intense guy that you think of when you think of a head strength and conditioning coach for a major D1 college football program. And I just looked it up. 29 years he has been the head strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, so even predating Tommy Bowden, he was
yeah.
Tommy. He was there when Tommy West was there.
Yeah, so this guy has seen Clemson through 3 decades now as the head strength and conditioning coach of the program. So he's seen them at some pretty low lows, and then been an integral part of the extremely high highs that the program's going through. So, I mean, shout out to him and everything that he's given to Clemson. I'm sure he'll still be somewhat around the program. When you're somewhere for that long, even when you retire, you don't necessarily walk completely away, right? Like, he'll still be, probably on campus every now and then, and, just kind of living his life. So shout out to him. And man, what a career. 40 years in the strength and conditioning field, 29 of which the head strength and conditioning coach for the Tigers. So that's pretty crazy.
No, I mean 100%, man. It really is incredible. And this was when the news came out last week, I can't say I was shocked. This was something that had been kind of churning for a little bit.
Yeah.
There were discussions that he was contemplating whether this past season was going to be his last.
Yeah.
And there was definitely some talks there, but he decided to give it one more run. I mean, and hey, I mean, this is as good a year to do it as any. I mean, with Clemson gearing up to potentially have a special season, this would be a good time, to go out.
Yeah.
And
if we can get him out on top with another national championship ring,
I hope so, man. And so I guess to kind of transition, like going forward, what this means for the program. Yeah. I do think that Clemson's strength and conditioning over the last couple of years had taken somewhat of a hit in some areas, and you can't hard to really point to the reasons for that. And so I do think this is a change that I think is, I don't want to say welcome, because you don't want to lose a guy that's as experienced and has done it for as long as Joey Batson has, and as well as he's done it. But sometimes you just need a fresh start, and I think this is a good opportunity for Clemson to, I don't know, get somebody new, even if it's a promotion from within, somebody different with a different direction and a different mindset, running the program. And so I'm really interested to see how they go, where they go. I've heard a couple of names that, have been intriguing, but I'm not entirely sure what direction they're going to go. And I don't think that's been finalized yet. But whoever it is, given the track record of Dabo this offseason, as far as, making staff hires, I'm pretty confident it's going to be somebody that is going to be able to do the job very well. I just no doubt in my mind, and that's something that Dabo has certainly emphasized and cared about throughout his career. Clemson throughout Dabo's tenure has been pretty fortunate as far as injuries. They haven't had a ton of guys that go down. Obviously the last few years have been you've seen a little bit of an uptick, but during the championship runs, you were pretty unscathed. I don't want to say unscathed. You had your injuries. It happens every season, but you didn't have the catastrophic injuries that maybe some other programs had. Especially to key players, and I think that's a testament to how well your players were prepared physically. So I have a really strong belief and confidence that this hire is going to be something that is going to be good for the program.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Joey Batson, as we mentioned, has done an amazing job at Clemson for the past 29 seasons. But moving on from him, I think it's important to kind of get a fresh set of ideas and a fresh look at it, and kind of that's been kind of Dabo's direction when it comes to these hires. But I trust that they'll get somebody that's experienced and ready for the challenge of being Clemson's head strength and conditioning coach, right? I don't see them going after anybody that's new or lacks experience or anything like that. If you've noticed how Dabo has started filling staff vacancies, he's leaning heavily into experience, right? Having a proven track record of doing your job, whatever that may be, at a very high level. And I don't expect that the head strength and conditioning hire will be any different. So I look forward to seeing who it will end up being. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have a list of 10 names of strength and conditioning coaches that I want Dabo or Clemson to take a look at, because that's not true. I don't know. But I'm sure it will be somebody that is immensely qualified and has a proven track record. And that's what we're looking for.
100%. And, it's going to be a big hire.
Absolutely.
It always is. And, it's one of those, it's one of those positions that one of the few that are like on the support staff that get as much attention to it as it does. Like you don't see, there's very few, you will always, when you follow a college football program, you will see fans, like, whenever they have injuries, blame the strength and conditioning. It's like, oh, is our strength and conditioning?
Yeah, we need a new strength and conditioning coach. Yeah.
It's almost like it's as scrutinized as like offensive line coach, and like,
no doubt. Yeah. Offensive line coach never gets any love.
No.
Or you let his O-line give up like 4 or 5 sacks in a weekend, and everybody's talking about him.
Do we need to make a change? So obviously that's not a problem here as far as
no, definitely not.
There are a lot of reasons for the injuries that Clemson had to deal with over the last few seasons, and I mean, it's hard to always blame. It's hard to blame strength and conditioning for for things that really have nothing to do with strength and conditioning.
Right. I mean, some stuff is just injuries happen. It's football, right? It's a very physical high contact, very taxing on the body sport, right? So I was, never really of the belief of, I know we had that rash of, especially in the wide receiver position group, of injuries, but, blaming that on strength and conditioning, knowing the track record that Joey Batson had at the program for so long and all those years that we went through all those playoff runs, playing more games than anybody in the country and didn't have a ton of injuries, he didn't suddenly forget how to be a head strength and conditioning coach. It's funny you mention it. This is actually like a kind of an underrated on how important of a hire it will be, because when you think about it, you always, fans are always into like, who's the offensive coordinator, who's the defensive coordinator, who's the whatever on the field coach. But what some fans don't realize, I'm sure everybody in here does, because they're college football degenerates because they're listening to a college football show at the end of April for no reason at all. Thank you guys all for being here, by the way. But the head strength and conditioning coach spends a lot of time with your team and your players. So that's a hire that you have to get right. That's got to be a guy that buys into your culture, the direction of your program, the founding principles of your program, all that kind of stuff, right? Because they do spend an immense amount of time with the football players when all the other coaching staff are busy doing other stuff, right? All those early morning workouts, all them summer workout, like all that stuff, like, they're involved in all that kind of stuff. So it is a key hire in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the names that's been thrown out there, probably been the I would say the leading candidate, Dennis Love being your assistant strength and conditioning coach. I think it would be a very obvious, like, solid move. I can't say I'm like you. I can't say I have a list of strength and conditioning coaches around the country that I'd rather have. But he's a guy that's been in the program a while now, and has learned from one of the best in the business over the years. So I think it makes a lot of sense, and he could bring his own flair and changes to how things are run, and we can see how that works. But this final decision hasn't been made, so we'll continue to see how that process is playing out.
Absolutely. We'll stay tuned for that. All right, Jordan, going ahead and shifting gears. Another massive news breaking in college football recently. Lee Corso, a guy that is just woven into the fabric of college football. If you grew up watching college football, I'm sure everybody here has watched College Game Day, one of the best shows in my opinion. I used to watch it all the time, religiously growing up. Football starts at 9 a.m. when College Game Day comes on and ends at like midnight whenever I get too tired to keep watching football games, right? But Lee Corso is kind of, at least over my lifespan, always kind of been there in the media as one of the major people talking college football for pretty much my entire life. He's always been there, and with the announcement of him giving it one more episode of College Game Day, it's going to be interesting where they end up doing that final show. I'm sure there will be some thought behind that. I'm sure they're going to have some great tributes for him, and all of that will be deserved. But I think every fan of college football has somehow been impacted by what Lee Corso has brought to the sport. His health has not been great as of late. The past couple of years, you've seen his role kind of dwindle year over year on College Game Day. And it's kind of sad to, it's awesome that he's been able to do it for so long, but at the same time, it's kind of sad to watch somebody like that used to be so sharp and entertaining and energetic and just like, a man of the people, just rallying up different fan bases with the headgear picks and the fake outs and the, all that fun stuff. cursing on air.
Yeah.
On the middle of ESPN, just being that guy to always like bring the life to the show, and then to see him kind of decline mentally after his stroke and stuff like that. It's sad to see, but also super cool to see him be able to do this for so long, and I'm sure they will give him the send off that he deserves on that first week of the 2025 college football season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an end of an era. Like that. Ultimately, that's what it is, and that's what it marks. And with it's kind of it feels like the punctuation point in a wave of college football and sports personalities that we've all grown up watching. Different programs, leaving or retiring or going and doing different things. It's it marks kind of a change in sports coverage and all of that. I mean, Lee Corso was a staple of college football, and it's not going to be the same. That's for sure. I know College Game Day. I mean, you mentioned it. His role had definitely diminished over the years, but it still felt familiar when you saw him up there, and I think that was kind of the important thing. Yeah. But now it's going to be different. I don't necessarily think like, oh no, we'll never, College Game Day will never be enjoyable or watchable again. I don't know. We'll see how they go about doing it. But it definitely marks the end of an era, and it's definitely saddening for sure. And it's you and I are both not little kids anymore, so it's those memories are always going to stick with you, and I think that's kind of the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting. Lee Corso's first headgear pick was, I think, Ohio State. What's the name, Brutus or whatever the mascot's name is? So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of try to recreate that a little bit in week one with going back to Ohio State. They got a big game week one. I guess potential games week one would be the Ohio State-Texas game, Clemson-LSU. What's another big game? Florida State-Alabama.
Yeah.
That's a big one. So, they got no shortage of big games to pick from, but just me reading the tea leaves, knowing that his very first headgear pick was Ohio State when he put on the Brutus head, it would, I guess, kind of be fitting if they went back there and made that his last one as well, to kind of bookend an amazing career of commentating and talking about college football. And that's a tough guy to replace. I think that's kind of the role that they've brought Pat McAfee in for, is kind of that entertainment value, comedic relief, if you will, just an energy guy, not serious all the time. I think that's their answer. Will that be successful going forward? I don't know. I'm sure, you see a lot of opinions out there about when Pat McAfee joined College Game Day. Some love him, some people hate him. But I feel like that was Lee Corso too, right? Like some people loved him, some people hated him. You always had the superstition of like, oh no, College Game Day's coming to town. What does the fan base always say? The home fan base, they're like, I really hope Lee Corso doesn't pick my team's headgear or whatever, right? So that was always fun. But here's a question: do you think they'll keep the headgear around, or will that? Like you mentioned, this is an end of an era. Will that be? They leave that as an end of an era, and should they?
I think they will. I don't see like it. Because who would you have? I think that was a staple of Lee Corso and that time in College Game Day. I think you let it be, find some new tradition
Yeah.
No reason to try to rehash the past or try to revive something with. I mean, you know what they say, like the sequel is never as good as the original. Like that
Right.
would
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
would
I
just
mean,
it
I
would
think
feel cheap and forced and
yeah.
unoriginal.
I think it would be cool. Like Isaac Smith says in the comic, come up with something else. It might be cool to add something. I'm sure they could do something with Pat McAfee because he's kind of the out of the box, jumps in rivers and stuff. Like he does
Yeah,
crazy
I don't
stuff.
know.
He's all for doing stuff for entertainment value. But I completely agree with you. I would definitely leave. I think it would almost be disrespectful to try to continue the headgear pick past Lee Corso because that's just like he started that. Like that was his. And he's for all these years. So I think it's fitting that, the last headgear pick, the first headgear pick and the last headgear pick is with Lee Corso. And that kind of becomes a thing that you talk about, when you talk about College Game Day and the show, you talk about how they used to do that. And that's like kind of a thing of their story, but I don't think continuing it would. I don't think it would work, and I don't think it would be very respectful of what Lee Corso has meant to college football and more specifically College Game Day as a show.
Yeah, the audience wouldn't. I don't think they would respond to it well.
No, I don't think so.
I'm not a TV executive. I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's like I don't have the demographics. Like, this resonates with this type of audience, this age audience. I don't have any of that. I just personally, I mean, and based on you and I and what a couple of people said in the comments, like I feel like that would be I feel pretty strongly that would be the popular sentiment would be like,
yeah. I mean, if you had whoever, like, it doesn't matter who it is. But the only person that I could see, like, if they were to do it, which I do not think they will, but if they were to do it, I would assume it'd be Pat McAfee. I think that would be met with extreme opposition by those who watch the show and, big longtime fans of the show. I don't think it would go over well at all. But so shout out to Lee Corso. I think everybody's kind of seen this coming for several years now. This is kind of, the writing's been on the wall, if you will. And, you could tell that the cognitive decline, I guess, of just, getting older and, you start having health complications and you can't grab those words quite as quickly as you used to. But, even with that, it's been an amazing run for him. Like I said at the beginning, he's woven into the fabric of college football. He'll always be a big part of a lot of memories for me for college football and part of what makes college football special, right? So I can't wait to watch it. Like, I will be tuned in for that College Game Day for sure to see the tributes and the send-off that they're going to give him. And I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Not that he's leaving, but just excited that, for him to get his due credit before he steps away.
100%.
All right, guys, make sure you're partnering with the Voice of College Football. If you guys own a small business, of anybody in business or is a decision maker of a business, hit us up. Get your product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. See our partner, Win Agency, and what they have to say about the sponsorship experience with us. Let's discuss how you can reach your target market. Contact us at sponsorships@VOCFB. That's sponsorships@VOCFB. And we'll be happy to partner with you today. So if that is you, let us know. Jordan, we are moving right along with our top 5 series on the channel. We've been going through every position group throughout the offseason, and it's been a fun ride. We've made some lists that me and you have been very confident and happy about. We've made some lists that we're like, I don't really like our list, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So maybe in a couple of years we'll revisit it and do it again, just to see, if some new players have made their way on the list or how we feel differently then. But it has been a fun ride, and one of the few position groups that we have left is safety. So the day has come for the top 5 safeties of all time for the Clemson Tigers, according to me and you. I got to put that disclaimer out there because every time we make a top 5 list, we always got names that we leave off, and there's always controversy with lists, but they're fun to make. They're fun for debate. They're fun to spark conversation, especially as we are in the desert of the college football offseason officially at this point. Now that spring is completely wound down, the transfer portal, there's not, too much fireworks there. So top 5 safeties of all time for the Clemson Tigers, according to me and you. Let's go.
All right.
I'll let you read it off.
Same format.
Same format. We just okay. Yeah. Let me explain to the people. Maybe there's new people here. We got 34 people in the live chat. So what me and Jordan do is we just kind of name names. We don't really prepare a list per se. Me and Jordan kind of name names. We talk about it, and then at the end we kind of pool all the names that we've named together, and we rank them 1 through 5, and then whatever honorable mentions we have after those top 5. So that's kind of how we do it. Jordan, I'll let you lead it off.
Yeah, when you think Clemson and safety, I mean, there's really one name that probably stands out above the rest. It's kind of obvious. I think everybody knows Brian Dawkins. I think this is probably one of the more no-brainer names. Like, I feel pretty confident about where he's going to be on this list. Well, who knows? We'll see. I think that Brian Dawkins, I think you have to have on the list with just has a legit argument as one of the best football players to ever play at Clemson. And obviously his NFL career was outstanding. He was Clemson's first Hall of Famer. All of that, but what he was at Clemson he was just, I don't want to say just as great, but he was pretty damn special. That's for sure. And he wasn't always on some great teams, but individually, he was one of the best, football players to do it here. So, yeah, Brian Dawkins, I think that's an obvious pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the name that a lot of Clemson fans would come out with at number 1. Brian Dawkins, just an absolute headhunter of a safety. Like you're like when you think of old school safety, you think of a guy like Brian Dawkins. Like that dude, like was almost possessed on a football field. He just his personality off the field and on the field, 2 completely different things, right? Like he was an absolute headhunter, trying to inflict as much pain on his opponent as he possibly could at the safety position. And as a fan, that's what we love to see, right? That's kind of some of the stuff that, although football is maybe safer now, as a football fan for my entire life, I do miss some of those big-time hits that would have gotten Brian Dawkins in today's age completely ejected out of the game. But they were fun to watch back in the day. And he's absolutely, he probably had a better NFL career than he did a Clemson career, but that's not to discount what he did at Clemson. He just had an amazing Hall of Fame NFL career to go with it. So, yeah, I think Brian Dawkins makes a lot of sense as the guy that's mentioned first. I'm going to go Terry Kennard. 2-time All-American, Jim Thorpe Award winner in 1982. Definitely one of the guys that is mentioned up towards the top when you think about defensive backs at Clemson, right? So that's what
that I think I think those two are pretty squarely. I think we know where those guys are going to go. Terry Kiner, absolutely, he has to be on there.
Yeah, we're not ranking them yet, but I think those are your 1 and 2. And if you talk to Clemson fans, some of them will interchange those two guys as 1 and 2. Some people think
they might. Some of them will give Terry Kiner the nod because of the championships, and being a multi-year, and the Denny Ford players are always just going to get. They're going to get some special treatment.
Yeah, I mean, and Terry, and Brian, they're kind of interchange those, and I think based off of who you're talking to, different Clemson fans are going to have one guy 1, the other guy 2, and vice versa. But what I don't think is you will talk to very many Clemson fans that don't have those guys 1 and 2 in whatever order it is. So I think that's those two names are pretty easy right off the cuff.
All right. I'm going to go. Ooh, there's a couple of names I got swirling in my head, but I'm going to go with DeAndre McDaniel. We had him on the mistakenly had him on the cornerbacks list last week.
We did, yeah, that was bad. Last week I had him on the cornerback list, but yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I'm going to go DeAndre McDaniel. For all the reasons that we talked about last week.
Right. Yeah.
Just phenomenal football player. And, just kind of what he was one of the first safeties, at least, especially in, my lifetime, that was just truly memorable because of he made highlight plays. He was a dog. And, obviously he had the accolades to go with it, but, he's always going to be one of my personal favorites. So, DeAndre McDaniel, I think is pretty. I think that's another guy you kind of have to have on the list somewhere.
Yeah, DeAndre McDaniel, absolutely. I think a guy that you got to have on the list. I'm going to go. Let's see, who do I want to put here? I'm going to go Marcus Gilchrist.
Okay, I like that.
Throwing it out there. He had a really good career at Clemson, and he had a really good career in the NFL as well. So I'm going to throw his name out there. He may end up in the top 5. He may not, but I think he's deserved to have a little bit of love in this conversation.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't even thinking about him. That's a good pick, though. It's a really great pick. All right, I'm going to go J-Ron Curse.
Yes, sir.
I think you got to have J-Ron, man. Phenomenal player. One of the more underrated players of the Dabo Swinney era. And maybe that's probably a popular – that might not even be, true to say because it feels like everybody says, man, J-Ron was so underrated. He was so good. But seriously, what he was on the back end of those Clemson defenses, he was kind of unsung just because of how good, the front seven was. But, I think J-Ron you have to have on the list.
Yeah, I think so too. So I got a question about a guy that I want to mention. And he was a hybrid player, if you will. Isaiah Simmons. I know he was kind of linebacker, kind of.
We already put him on the linebackers list.
We did, yeah.
But we're just throwing out names like that. We don't stop at 5
because he did play some safety. He was a hybrid. I think he's deserved to be mentioned in it. I don't know that he'll make the top 5 list just because he wasn't a pure safety at Clemson, right? But he was kind of that, I don't know. He was a special player at Clemson. He could play safety. He could play linebacker. He could play nickel. That dude could literally play.
He played defensive end, man.
Like I said, he could literally almost play every position on the defense outside of like D tackle and cornerback.
Yeah. And hell, I mean, you could put him on some bigger, some bigger slots and slot receivers, and he'd be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. So
That
probably an honorable mention there, but I just got to get his name out there. One of my favorite Clemson players of all time. Fun player to watch just because he was all over the field. And Brent Venables just knew how to like move him around and create all sorts of havoc with him. So honorable mention for our old buddy Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, that's a great pick. All right, I'm going to go Robert O'Neill.
Robert O'Neill, yep.
Another phenomenal safety that I believe he holds the record for the most takeaways, I believe, in a season. I think he had 8 interceptions in his final year, 9 total takeaways. I mean, I think you have to have him on the list. He holds a lot of Clemson school records. He was a playmaker, man. So I think you gotta include him.
Dexter Davis.
Oh, Dexter Davis popped up in my. But when you mentioned it before the show, Dexter Davis popped in my head, and I was like, oh, I have to mention him, and then I completely forgot. I'm glad you said him.
Yeah, Dexter Davis. Dexter Davis. Got to mention him. Played for us in the 90s.
Yep. Dexter Davis, he was kind of in that transition period, wasn't he, between Ford and Hatfield?
Yeah, he played in the early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. So great player, man. Okay. How many are we at now?
Where are we at?
No, Garnet Lee, not Van Smith. Not Van Smith.
Van Smith. All right, so we got Brian Dawkins. We got
Terry Kiner.
Terry Kiner. Yep. We got Dexter Davis. We got Marcus Gilchrist. We got Jaron Kearse, Robert O'Neill, and DeAndre McDaniel.
How many is that?
That's a lot.
Is that 7?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Let's do one more.
One more. Go ahead. I'll let you get the last one, and then we'll go into ranking 1 through 5, and then our honorable mentions.
All right. More recency bias. I'm going to go RJ Mickens.
Yes. I'm glad you said that. I was going to say him, and somehow I forgot about him. I don't know.
Huge RJ Mickens guy. Damn, Garnet Lee just mentioned. You mentioned Jonathan Meeks. That would have been a good pick too. But I got to go with I got to go with RJ Mickens.
TJ Green's another good one.
Yeah.
Dang.
Man, okay, we might have to. Can we expand? I'm going to put both of them. Let's expand it to 10 for today, because I don't feel it doesn't feel right leaving off TJ
Green's got to be in there, no doubt.
As a second, I mean, he went the second round, didn't he? Like,
yes.
Kayvon, oh my God.
Yeah, Kayvon Wallace.
Oh, brother. Okay, now the names are flowing in. Okay, we can't. Okay, no, we got.
Here's the thing though. And I'm gonna call out the chat section real quick. They always do this to us at the end.
I know they wait until we've already had like names together, and then they start throwing out other names.
They wait till we get like 6, 7 names deep, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, hey, what about this guy? Hey, what about this guy?"
It's like, okay, well now we don't have enough room.
I see what y'all are doing. Y'all ain't slick.
That's evil.
Yeah, y'all ain't slick. I'm on to you.
Tanner Muse. Listen, okay. People, Clemson fans always mention Tanner Muse. And listen, I'm not a guy to defend Tanner Muse. I have some personal experience with that guy, but like he was not as bad of a player as some, like he got drafted for a reason. He wasn't like I feel like people mention Tanner Muse in jest, and it's like it's not that. I think it's a little unfair. Like I think he was a good football player for Clemson. I don't know if he belongs on like a top 5 safeties list, but I think he was largely a good player. He just had his bad moments really stuck out. But anyway, that's my very slight Tanner Muse defense.
Yeah, people used to kill him, man.
Yeah.
Clemson fans. Yeah.
But he was, I mean, he got drafted. I mean, largely he tested very well. That was a lot of the reason why. But like, I mean, the guy was playing safety and he in a linebacker body. Like, I mean, you're going to get beat sometimes. Like he like expecting him to be the fastest, player when you're trying to. I remember he got burned in the the national championship against LSU was bad. He got cooked even in the win over Alabama. I don't know how he ended up on was it Jerry Jeudy? Like how I don't know how he got messed up with Jerry Jeudy on like a post route, but it happened. And the fans would see stuff like that and be like, "Man, he's such a bad player." And I'm like, "Okay, well that's not fair."
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, okay. I'm not gonna do a Tanner Muse defense on here. I've done enough of that. Zachariah, does Justin Miller count? No, he's firmly in the cornerback territory. Category I would consider.
All right, so here we go, Jordan. I got all the names down, so we can pick through this now top 10 and make it a top 5, and then eventually a top 10. Clemson safeties of all time. All right, so I'm just going to rattle off the names that we've talked about so far, and then we can go into ranking these people. All right, here we go. Terry Kiner, Brian Dawkins, Dexter Davis, Marcus Gilchrist, Robert O'Neill, Jaron Kearse, DeAndre McDowell, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace. Those are the names.
Shoot.
All 10 of them.
All right.
All right,
wait, go ahead.
Let's just start easy.
Okay.
1 and 2. 1 and 2. I'm going Brian Dawkins, then Terry Kennard.
Me too.
Okay. Well, that was easy.
Yeah, that was easy.
Here comes the hard part. All right, so 1, Brian Dawkins, 2, Terry Kennard. All right. So 3 through 5. I'm going to name the names: Dexter Davis, Marcus Gilchrist, Robert O'Neill, Jaron Kearse, DeAndre McDaniel, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace. Who we putting at 3?
Oh. Oh, man. I'm struggling because now I'm like weighing. Okay, yeah, this one's going to be tough because
Yep.
safety. It's always hard to grade safeties.
That's why we had to expand it to 10.
Yeah. All right. Number three. Let's go. Say the list one more time.
Dexter Davis, Marcus Gilchrist, Robert O'Neill, Jaron Curse, DeAndre McDaniel, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, K. Wallace.
No. Oh man. Okay. Do you have a name? You know who you're going with? I'm really struggling. Like the first two are obvious, and then like you have then like this group is just there's a lot of interchangeability here.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was going to be really opinion based. I mean, I could go DeAndre McDaniel there. I could go Jaron Curse there, honestly.
Let's go DeAndre McDaniel.
Okay.
Correct.
DeAndre McDaniel 3. All right.
Maybe that might be too high, but shoot. Number 4.
Dexter Davis, Marcus Gilchrist, Robert O'Neill, Jaron Curse, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace.
I'm gonna go Dexter Davis.
Dexter Davis. Okay. Man. Hmm.
Okay, now 5.
Oh, you know who I don't? No. RJ Mickens.
Oh yeah. I mean that's fine. I don't think I'm gonna put RJ top 5 anyway.
Not top 5, but he's up there. I mean, Robert O'Neill, Jaron Curse. Those two dudes got to be up there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Robert O'Neill. I mean, interceptions as a safety, like you're not. It's kind of hard to rack up a ton.
Yeah.
Because the ball isn't always being thrown directly your way, and to have as many as he did. That doesn't feel right though. Yeah, no, let's do it. Robert O'Neill. If you agree, who are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the ones like Robert O'Neill, Jaron Curse. Those dudes are definitely up there. I see everybody in the chat saying Kayvon.
I don't think I can put Kayvon top 5.
All right. So here's the top 5 right now. It's not locked in. We can still change it. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm going to rattle it off. We'll see how we feel. Number 1, Brian Dawkins. Number 2, Terry Kynard. Number 3, DeAndre McDaniel. Number 4, Dexter Davis. Number 5, Robert O'Neill. Left out of the top 5 is Marcus Gilchrist, Jaron Curse, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace, RJ Mickens.
Ooh. How do we feel good about that?
I mean, I think it's as good as it's going to get right now. It's safety's tough for me. I really like our 1 and 2. After that, I think all the guys we got in our top 5 are deserving of the top 5. If I'm looking at the names and thinking about it,
you know who we didn't mention, Jadar Johnson. I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay, I shouldn't have even done that, but shouldn't have even thought about it. But he just came into my head.
Robert Carswell. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need any more names. All right, so let's stick with that. Top 5, according to me and Jordan, Clemson safeties of all time as of April 23rd, 2025. Number 1, Brian Dawkins. Number 2, Terry Kynard. Number 3, DeAndre McDaniel. Number 4, Dexter Davis. Number 5, Robert O'Neill. You guys let us know what you think in the comments. I'm sure there will be 1,000% agreement with our list. And we got a couple more to rank here, Jordan. We'll just round out the top 10, but that's our top 5. All right, so 5 through 10, we got to leave one off because we got 6 people left, Jordan. So Marcus Gibbs, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace, RJ Mickens.
Okay, let's go. Okay, number 6.
Where are we going? J-Ron?
Yeah, J-Ron. Let's go J-Ron at 6.
That's what I think. J-Ron Curse, 6. All right, number 6, J-Ron Curse. And then we got Marcus Gilchrist, TJ Green, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace, RJ Mickens.
I'm going to go TJ Green at 7.
TJ Green, number 7. I like it. All right, so 6 and 7 is J-Ron Curse and TJ Green. Then we got Marcus Gilchrist, Jonathan Meeks, Kayvon Wallace, RJ Mickens.
I'm going to go RJ Mickens.
RJ Mickens at 8.
Yeah, RJ was like, he had like 3, like basically 3 years of good production. Like, that's hard to come by.
Yeah.
I mean, he was one of the best players in the secondary. Like in 2020, he was probably your best player in the secondary in 2022. Best in 2023. Best in probably argue not the best.
RJ Mickens was. I mean, and his growth over his 3, years of starting.
Yeah.
Was huge. So I don't mind that there. Number 9. I'm kind of leaning Marcus Gilchrist.
Me too. I think I'm going to go Gilchrist.
I think he deserves to be up there. All right, so Marcus Gilchrist 9. And then the final spot, number 10, is between Jonathan Meeks and Kayvon Wallace. I'm going to go Kayvon Wallace.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right to leave off Kayvon, man. So, yeah.
All right. Here we go. We got it locked in. We're not going to change it. This was tough enough to get to this point. So it is what it is. We can talk about it and debate it at another date. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. But here is our top 5 and then I'll give you our – well, I'm just going to rattle off the top 10. This was supposed to be a top 5, but it was too tough. We did 10. But we are ranking them 1 to 10. So top 5 or top 10 safeties at Clemson of all time, according to me and Jordan. Number 1, Brian Dawkins. Number 2, Terry Kynard. Number 3, DeAndre McDaniel. Number 4, Dexter Davis. Number 5, Robert O'Neill. Number 6, Jaron Kearse. Number 7, TJ Green. Number 8, RJ Mickens. Number 9, Marcus Gilchrist. And number 10, Kayvon Wallace. Honorable mention, Jonathan Meeks. There you have it, folks. Tell us all the reasons why we were wrong in the comments below. I look forward to reading.
Tell us who we left off, because I already mentioned a couple.
Tell us who you would take off. Tell us who you would put in. I'm always interested to get your guys' perspective, because every Clemson fan has different perspectives at different positions. A lot of this stuff is, players that you liked more than another player, players that you remember, have better memories of than other players, so it's all, sort of subjective. Yeah, we got stats and stuff to lean on to get us, down to a certain amount of names, but it's always preference at certain points of doing any ranking. So let us know how we did. Let us know the changes you would make. Appreciate all you guys for that. All right, Jordan. We got 34 people in the live chat right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hit that like button while you're in here. Get as close to that 34 as we possibly can. Consider subscribing if you're not subscribed to the channel. We are on the road to 6,000 subscribers. You do not have to be a Clemson fan to come hang out with us. We got several other fan bases in here, and we always chop it up with our comment section at the end of every show. So if that's something that you're interested in, get your questions in, get your comments in, hang out with us until the end of the planned portion of the show, and we'll be sure to chop it up with you guys for a while. But with that said, make sure you are checking out Clemson Live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you listen to them, whether it's at the gym, whether it's on a long drive, whether it's on a run. Search Clemson Live, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Search Clemson Live. All of me and Jordan's content will be on there. All the content from the channel will be there for you to consume in podcast form. And that would be greatly appreciated, guys. Check us out there. Give us a rate, review, subscribe over there as well. And we appreciate that. All right, Jordan, to the big topic of the night that we wanted to get to, LSU, week 1, coming to Death Valley, Clemson, South Carolina, the real Death Valley. I don't care what the LSU people say. Clemson's Death Valley was named Death Valley long before LSU ever even thought about naming their stadium or got the nickname or the moniker Death Valley. But we can hash that out in another video. But I want to take an early look at this massive ACC versus SEC matchup to kick off the 2025 season. One of the huge marquee games of week 1 of the college football season. Two massive brands in the sport colliding. And there's a lot of implications heading into this game, Jordan. From the Clemson side of it, let's just be honest. As of late, we do not have a great track record versus the SEC. Let's just call it what it is, right? I think we've lost the last, 4 games versus SEC opponents. So that's a problem, right? Got to correct that. That's definitely going to be a topic of conversation leading into week 1. Everybody's giving Clemson props this offseason, honestly, talking about how much depth, how much experience, how many leaders that return to the team, how much returning production they have coming back to the team, and how important that's going to be here in week 1. So getting it done against a team like LSU is going to be very important. And looking at it from an LSU point of view, right, there's going to be a lot of talk of LSU's long week 1 losing streak. There's going to be talk about Brian Kelly and can he get the job done at LSU? Can he get them over the hump? All of that is going to be conversations heading into this LSU Clemson massive matchup in week 1. Jordan, what's just kind of your general thoughts about the game as we start looking at it all the way back here in April? Lots of things can change between now and that I think August 30th kickoff. But just some early thoughts on this massive matchup. It's going to be an exciting week 1, that's for sure. And I'm glad that it's happening on Clemson's campus. Or if it was on LSU's campus, I'd be equally excited. I'm just glad that we're not playing in a neutral site professional football stadium.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. This is one of the arguably the marquee game of week 1. When I look at this game, one of the first questions I ask is who needs this game more? Because I think you can make legitimate arguments for both teams. LSU obviously is on a 5-year streak of losing opening games. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's not a streak you want to be on.
No. But Clemson hasn't been that great in opening games as of late either.
No, we haven't.
And so, you have that. Both teams are coming into this season with high expectations. Returning Heisman candidate quarterbacks. Brian Kelly as a coach probably is facing a little bit of a different pressure than Dabo is. Brian Kelly's had a up and down first couple of years at LSU. I guess it's been 3 years. They had some success. They won the division when they still had divisions in his first year. They had a Heisman winner a couple of years ago in Jaden Daniels. But, those teams were very incomplete defensively. They were piss poor, without a better term. So, there's a lot of pressure internally and from the fan base on LSU to win now. I mean, that's a proud program. They expect to compete for SEC and national championships, and they weren't up to the standard a lot of times last year. They weren't super explosive in the passing game. They couldn't run the ball very well, and defensively, while they got better, they still weren't great. So there's a lot of room for improvement there, and then Clemson coming into this year, the expectations are high for different reasons. You're number 1 in returning production. Clemson has a Heisman candidate coming back at quarterback. They've made all these staff changes and all these staff, big time staff hires. This is a year they've been gearing up to. This is a team that's going to be full of juniors and seniors largely in your 2 deep. You have a real opportunity to have a special type of year with the talent you have on the roster. So there's obviously a lot of incentive for both teams to win this football game, but who needs this game more? I still don't know. I still don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, I guess really that question is a tough one because it's really going to depend who you ask, right? Because I can make a really good case from a Clemson standpoint of why Clemson needs this game more. Our record against the SEC last season, we didn't beat a single SEC foe that we faced, including probably the 3 biggest games we've played all year, right? Georgia starting the season, South Carolina at the end of the season, and then Texas in the playoffs, right? All 3 SEC losses. So there's always that narrative out there. Clemson obviously plays in the ACC. Let's just call it what it is. It's a second-rate conference as far as how the media covers it, how they talk about it, how fans talk about it, just the way that it is. It's unfortunate. I don't like it. But from that standpoint, it's like Clemson needs the game more, right? We got to beat one of these big SEC foes again, right, just to kind of reestablish that, Clemson is at that level once again, right? And it really is going to it wouldn't be a complete like, oh, the season's over if you go out and lose to LSU, right? However, I don't think either of these teams can afford to be beaten handily by the other team. Not even necessarily a blowout, just like beaten handily, if that makes sense to everybody out there, right? Like neither team can afford that. Either team could afford a close loss, right? It wouldn't be good for either team to lose this game. But if it's a close competitive game and, somebody kicks a game-winning field goal or however it ends, right, you can kind of live with that. There's still a lot to play for, especially in this day and age of the expanded playoff. Everything's still in front of you if you're Clemson and you lose. The ACC still in front of you. You still, can end up in the ACC championship and ultimately the playoffs. Same thing for LSU, right? It's an out-of-conference game. So from playoff implications, I don't think it's make or break for either team. But because of Clemson's recent record against the SEC, because of some of the narrative around the program, around Dabo Swinney, around the way the fall of Clemson, if you will, I think it's immensely important for Clemson to win this game. Just to kick off the 2025 season right, you mentioned that they're number one in the country in returning production. So you have all that senior, veteran-laden leadership that you need on the team. You got that massive production. Your quarterback's back. He had an amazing season last year. He's one of the Heisman frontrunners heading into the season, right? And you're getting some love in the offseason by the college football media telling you that we expect Clemson to be really good in 2025, right? So you're going to have to answer that bell. But if you're looking at it from an LSU perspective, you can make an argument for them, right? That 5-game losing streak to start every season, you mentioned that. That's huge, right? Brian Kelly still doesn't feel like he quite fits into what LSU is, right? Some fans are kind of split on how they feel about him and, will he ultimately be successful at LSU and, some of that stuff. So it's going to be super important for them to kind of get kicked off right. They got a Heisman front runner and Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. So they got that veteran-laden experience at the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. So it's really important for them as well. They're looking to, make a run and return and possibly, battle their way into an SEC championship game. So they have lofty goals. They've done pretty well in the portal. They brought in some new talent onto that team. So, but if you're asking me, from my point of view, this is more important for Clemson than it is LSU. And that's a biased opinion because I'm a Clemson fan, but I just think that there's more weighing on this. LSU's in the SEC. So from my purview, from the way that I view college football and the way that really college football is talked about, LSU will get a pass because they're in the SEC. Well, they play the tougher schedule. So that Clemson, the Clemson loss won't really matter unless they get blown out by Clemson. Yeah. Then people will, be talking about them in a very negative way, right? If they walk into Death Valley and just get blown off the field, very bad for them. But if they walk in the Death Valley and lose by anywhere from 3 to 7 points, anybody's going to dog LSU for that, right? But I do think ultimately it's more important for Clemson to win this game than it is LSU.
Yeah, and I tend to agree for a lot of the reasons you mentioned. We've talked about it. When this game has come up, it feels paramount that Clemson goes and wins that game. I did want to kind of look at where, because we haven't really talked about, we talked about the game itself, but we haven't really talked about what their team is coming into this year. So I do want to kind of get a look at what their, what is their offense going to look like? What is their defense going to look like? I'm not going to go all the way through the depth chart, but just kind of a look at how their spring has gone. When I look at this LSU team, there's a lot of unknowns, and I think that's kind of the thing that I take away from everything that I've read, from everything, just knowing the roster and what I watched from them last year, some of the players coming back. This is a team that has a lot of pieces, but I have no idea how any of them fit together. They had the number one transfer portal class of this offseason. They brought in a lot of players, and a lot of players I like. Receiver is going to be the best. I mean, when is LSU's receivers? When are they not? Really good. But LSU's receivers are going to be really good. This is going to be arguably probably the best receiving room you will face this year. I cannot think of a single one that comes close. So I mean, I think it's going to be a good test for Clemson defensively. I mean, when you think of guys like you bring in Barian Brown from the transfer portal to go with Barian Brown and Nick Anderson from the transfer portal to go with a guy like Aaron Anderson with Xavion Thomas. They're going to have one of the best receiver rooms in the country. They're deep, they are fast, they can run. Like, this is going to be one of the fastest teams you play all year. Might be the fastest team you play all year. And then, you have to factor in Caden Durham coming out of the backfield. He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards as a true freshman. I mean, I think they're going to be a lot better running the football than they were last year. I think they're going to do better because they really struggled last year. I think partially just because they weren't used to not having Jaden Daniels back there. Garrett Nussmeier being a pocket guy.
Yeah. They did a good job protecting Garrett Nussmeier last year.
Yes, they did.
But they could never really, to your point, establish any semblance of a consistent running game all season long. So that's definitely something that hampered their ability to win football games last year.
Yeah, and that brings me to a good point. Is I think the biggest question on this LSU offense right now is that offensive line. There's a lot of pieces that are going to be. There's going to be new pieces. There's going to be guys shuffled around. They lose their top. Their left and right tackle, Emory Jones, and
that's tough.
Oh gosh, Emory Jones isn't even the best one. Why am I blanking on the other one? He's going to be a top pick, but you get what I'm saying. You lose your left and right tackle. There's a competition at center. They brought in the Moore kid from Virginia Tech. They brought in the Thompson kid from Northwestern to potentially play tackle. He can also play guard. So there's a lot of pieces moving around, and they have guys that I think can play, but I don't know how they fit together. And you mentioned how well they protected Garrett Nussmeier last year. When you're replacing your top two tackles, that's always going to be a big question mark. And based on the reports from coming out of their spring scrimmages, their defensive ends had their way at times. With those tackles, no matter who it was in there. So it makes you wonder. Obviously they're still figuring things out, and I don't even know if they know who their best five is yet. But that's something to keep an eye on. But I think offensively they have the pieces to be one of the best, one of the better offenses in the country. With Nussmeier coming back, and obviously the receiver room, they also have to replace Mason Taylor. I think they're going to be more tight end. There's going to be more of a deeper tight end rotation. You're going to see guys like Trades Green. They brought in the Bauer kid from the portal. But offensively, I think they have a lot of pieces that I think if they coalesce, they could be a really, 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 really good offense. I just don't know what they are yet. That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, the talent they brought in. They brought in 16 transfers, I believe. So a lot of incoming talent. And, the transfer portal can be a great gift when it comes to instant contributors on your football team. But it doesn't always mesh and work, right? So there is a question mark, when you're bringing in 16 guys via the transfer portal, how do they mesh with your current roster? Where's the buy-in level? Where's the X's and O's, learning the playbook, the calls, the verbiage, all that kind of stuff. I mean, defense is defense and offense is offense. Yeah, that's true. But the different verbiage and how they mesh within the system that's being run is always a question mark when you're talking about the transfer portal. And I think, especially offensively, you're talking about their offensive, huge question mark. Not devoid of talent at all, but just devoid of proven production, especially within that offense, right? And that was a point where they kind of struggled last year, especially running the ball. So that's going to be, you're going to find out pretty early how good their offensive line is, because they're going to be going up against a very stout Clemson defensive line that's going to test them. And we all know Tom Allen, not by being at Clemson, but just by watching his defenses that he runs, he's going to put pressure on Garrett Nussmeier. He's going to, try to wreak some havoc, especially with them breaking in a lot of new pieces along that offensive line. So that's certainly going to be interesting to watch. The big, saving grace that you got to hold on to, if you're LSU, is Garrett Nussmeier, right? You got that experienced signal caller back there that has seen a lot of football and should be able to guide you through some of the rougher patches, if there are any, along the offensive line, right? He should be able to cover up some of those shortcomings if there are any early in the season. So that's something you got to look at. And then, kind of turning the page to LSU's defense and who they are, right? They, early, it's still early in Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU, I guess, but their defense was bad, downright bad, right? And then they bring in the new defensive coordinator, and, they've gotten some results, right? Some positive results from that. You expect that they would take another step forward again this coming season. What's your kind of thoughts on defense and how they've progressed since the new hire at D coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, it's another side of the ball with new pieces. I mean, I think there's a little bit more familiarity. You bring back guys like Harold Perkins.
Yep.
You're going to bring, but they still needed help. They brought in 2 defensive ends out of the transfer portal, Patrick Payton and Jack Pyburn from Florida, Florida State and Florida respectively. And
Jamari Butler from Nebraska as well.
Yes, Jamari Butler as well. So three
edge guys. Yep.
And which makes sense because they were heavy. They also were after Will Help. So that was, and I think he visited before he visited Clemson. So they definitely needed the help there. They brought in the Cooley kid from NC State to help in the defensive backfield, Monsieur Delane from Virginia Tech. At corner, I think he's a really phenomenal football player. Probably should have. I think he was an All ACC player last year. But they still have some question marks in that defensive backfield. They have some young talent. They bring back Ashton Stamps, who was kind of up and down last year for a lot, to say the least.
Right.
I think this is a LSU defense that has a lot of great athletes, but I feel like they don't really know how they fit all together yet. Like I said, LSU is, like, from a team speed standpoint, they're going to be arguably the fastest team you play. Like, a lot of these guys can run. These are great athletes. Harold Perkins is a great athlete, but his football career has not panned out the way that many people thought. I have my own thoughts on that, but this is an LSU defense that I think if they take another step forward, they could be really good, because I think they have the pieces. Like, I don't think they are like untalented on that side of the ball by any stretch of the imagination.
No, certainly not.
So might be thin in some areas, but that's why they brought in those guys from the portal, and I think those are good additions. I think Patrick Payton, when he wants to play well, is a very good football player. He doesn't always have that motor, and I think that's kind of one of the things that I'm going to be interested to see. But the Pyburn kid, I think he was kind of used sparingly at Florida, but I think he has some juice and he can play a little bit and will give them a solid floor there. They brought in Sydir Mitchell at defensive tackle. I think he's been hurt throughout the spring, but they expect him to be in the rotation. One thing that LSU has not done well as of late is have those great playmakers on the defensive line. I think they've took some steps. I think they're going to be in better shape this year than they've been in a little bit. So if they can get to the pass, get to the passer a lot better than they have in recent years, I think that'll take some of the pressure off the defensive backfield. So, when you look at this LSU team, this is a team that I think wouldn't surprise me if we're talking about them down the road as a playoff team. But I just don't know how soon all of those pieces are going to come together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a lot of pieces. You're talking about 7 pieces brought in just on the defensive side of the ball via the transfer portal. A safety, a couple cornerbacks, 3 edge rushers, a couple defensive tackles, right? Like, so or 1 defensive tackle, 3 edge rushers, 2 cornerbacks, and a safety, right? So that's a lot of pieces. Not that all of those guys are going to come in and be first team right starters, right? But you assume you brought them in via the transfer portal. You needed them to come in and produce immediately this season. So those are going to be important, either starters or rotation pieces for your defense. And having 7 brand new guys, that can be really good, or that can, create some issues because of working in so many brand new pieces. We won't really know until you get a little bit closer, get some feedback from fall camp and stuff like that. But, certainly a defense that's not, that's not devoid of talent. They have plenty of talent on that side of the ball. You mentioned the speed that LSU has. So it'll be interesting to see, how all their transfer portal pieces work out for them. And, we'll obviously be paying close attention as we, move through the summer and into fall camp and just hear, what the consensus is for, how those pieces are being integrated into the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and one thing that I think will give Clemson fans some solace is LSU doesn't know what the hell they're doing on special teams either.
Perfect, because we all know we don't.
Yeah. So this might be a very both both teams have no idea what their punting situation is going to look like. So
they did go get a punter in the portal.
They did. They did. Must be nice.
But yeah, I don't know how good he is.
The reports have not been the returns have not been very good so far. I know that, but at least they tried. So I don't know. That's something, I guess. We'll see how both those teams. Who knows? Maybe neither team will have to punt because it's a 45-42 game. I don't know, but imagine.
Oh,
my heart couldn't do that.
I don't know if I can. I don't know if we can. I don't know if me and you got another week 1 like in us, Jordan.
No, man. I don't think I could do it.
These week 1s are stacking up since we've been doing this show. So
yeah,
we're in desperate need of a week 1 turnaround for the Tigers because we've been doing this show for 3 seasons.
Yep.
So
we've only won the opener the one time, the first time,
the first season that we did this show. So yeah, come on, Clemson, get it done for us. But it's gonna be a crazy game. I'm hoping it's a night game, just because Death Valley at night is just a little bit different, right? It's great in the daytime, it's great at noon, it's great at 3:30, but under the lights. That night kickoff just set a little added special there in Death Valley. So I'm excited about the game, man. I'm glad that Clemson schedules games like this, even though last year the Georgia opener. I don't know, why did we play Georgia twice? And one game was in Charlotte and one game was in Atlanta. Why did we do that? We basically did a home and home without either team playing at home. It makes no sense to me. I don't know why that happens. But anyways, I say that to say I'm glad that Clemson and LSU agreed to a home and home series. And I love that Clemson schedules these big non-conference games. Even though we play South Carolina every year, and that's a big non-con game. I'm glad that Clemson still goes out and schedules these, one other big non-con game every single year. So I'm excited, man. This is going to be great. Leading up to week one, just thinking about this matchup.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm super stoked for it. It's the biggest home opener you've had since 2013 Georgia.
Yep.
Can't think of one that's bigger.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So, like, this is special, man. So
it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a great game, I think, either way. Hopefully our Tigers come out on top.
Let's hope.
All right, guys, make sure you're connecting with us on the socials. Our social media, got a Twitter account. We got an Instagram account. Make sure you guys are heading over there, following us on Twitter, following us on Instagram. The Instagram page is a little bit newer, but we would appreciate you guys head over there and check it out. I'm going to show you our social medias here on the screen. Here's our Twitter account. Head over to Twitter, the Voice of College Football Network, for the best debate, discussion, and analysis with no offseason. Go check us out over on Twitter. While you're there, go check me and Jordan out on Twitter as well. Yes, I'm finally officially on Twitter. Jordan Bowman, Jobo0209 over on Twitter. And then my Twitter handle, TPC_CFB over on Twitter. Go check us out over there. That'd be greatly appreciated. And then last but certainly not least, go check out our Instagram. The Voice of College Football official Instagram page has launched, trying to grow it over there. Got 138 followers right now. So go check us out over there, and we would appreciate that as well. All right, Jordan. With that said, I think that does it for the planned portion of the show. That was a good show tonight. Appreciate you guys sticking it out with us. We got 32 people in the live chat right now. So while you're in here, you might as well get some questions and comments in here and hang out with me and Jordan for a little bit, and we'll chop it up with you guys for the next, 15, 20 minutes, however long we go. We always go over. So get your comments, get your questions in. Now is your time to just ask us whatever you want.
All right.
Let's see what the people are talking
about LSU. Dylan said, so it looks like LSU will be favored over Clemson. I see UF, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Oklahoma beating LSU, and that's not even including Clemson. Well, no, Clemson is a favorite in this game. I think they'll remain a favorite when this game rolls around. I don't know. It's the SEC. LSU certainly has the potential to where, it just doesn't work and things kind of fall apart. But I don't know. They have a proven commodity at quarterback. I think that goes a long way, and they're going to have weapons. I think you can figure everything else out to the point where they're not losing. How many games is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I don't think LSU is losing 6 games this year. And listen, I think Brian Kelly's a good coach. Like I don't think the wheels will ever fall off there to the point with him as the head coach to where they lose 6 games. Now I say that knowing that Brian Kelly once went 4-8 at Notre Dame, but that extenuating circumstances, different program. I don't think that, and that was obviously a blip on his resume, because basically every other year he's been a head coach. He's been consistently winning 9, 10 plus games. So I don't see LSU losing 6 games. I think they're too good. I think the roster is too good for that.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too good, because I just said it could happen, but I'm not projecting it. I think they're going to be good. John says Clemson has early odds in their favor, but it won't matter until August and injuries and depth charts are known. Yeah, I mean that's the biggest question. I want to like for LSU especially. I want to see how what their offensive line is looking like. Who's starting at center? What are the I feel pretty confident that the left tackle is going to be what's his name? I already forgot his name. The green kid.
For LSU?
Yeah. He started last year when Will Campbell opted out.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but I think he's entrenched at left tackle. But it seems like the other positions. I think the Cohen's kid is probably going to start at right guard. But beyond that, I think there's a lot of fluidity, and there are guys that I think are going to potentially move around. With the transfers, of Braylon Moore, Josh Thompson, like that's going to shake things up. But so like I want to see what that offensive line, who they think their best five is, because I think that'll tell us a lot. DJ Chester,
Tyree Adams
might not be the center.
Left tackle Tyree Adams.
Yeah, Tyree Adams.
Yep, there you go.
I don't know why I was thinking Green, but yeah, Tyree Adams, I think is definitely going to be their left tackle, and Cohen's I think is more than likely going to start at guard. But everywhere else I think is up in the air. I think DJ Chester could lose his spot to Braylon Moore. I think you could see Thompson slide in at right tackle. I think he could play guard too if you needed him to.
Josh Thompson. They got Weston Davis.
Weston Davis is he's the starter at right tackle right now.
Yeah, right tackle. Yep.
But I think he could slide in.
Cohen Eccles, DJ Chester at center.
Yeah.
And then,
but like I said, I think that they haven't decided on. I don't think they've decided on center. So I think that's kind of that's my biggest thing for LSU right now is what does that offensive line look like? Because obviously we feel Clemson internally. Obviously we feel really good about where that defensive line is, and if as it stands right now, you think that's a matchup that's going to be in your favor, but you don't know until you know. Dylan says faster than Louisville. Yeah, as a team, I would say so. LSU, I would say so. Overall, like team speed, hard to quantify that, but just based on like my eyeballs watching them
probably
play.
Close, but yeah.
And he also asked how much film study is needed for Clemson to utilize their weapons with all new coaches and coordinators in the ACC. I mean, film study is not necessarily about figuring out how you're going to run your game plan. It's figuring out how you're going to stop the other teams. Yeah. And so, like, Clemson is going to be Clemson, no matter the opponent. They're going to run their stuff, and I don't think that's going to be affected very much by new coaches. Especially this. I think this team is really good. I mean, this Clemson team is really good. And they have a lot of guys that are just going to be. They're going to make plays. So
this Clemson offense has a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily worried about their ability to produce on offense. At least we shouldn't have to worry about that. With the amount of playmakers that are there, they're proven playmakers. That should not be a concern. Not that people can't scheme you up and take certain things away, but when you look at the depth on the offensive side of the ball, It's going to be hard to take everything away.
Yeah.
As long as that running back room comes along how we hope it does, it'll be very difficult to take everything away.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not too worried about, like, obviously when you get down the line, you know, and you're in the playoff, you know, it's like, okay, well, now the competition increases. Now, you know, the other team has players that can stop your players and match up with your players. Yeah, now you have to have a conversation. You know, maybe do we need to do some things differently? Do we need to change looks? But I think you're going to see Clemson be themselves and do what they do well, and stick to that for largely to get through this regular season, because I think they're better than every team on the schedule. Point blank, I think they're better than every single team. Yes, I think they're I think they're better than LSU as it stands right now. I think they're better than South Carolina. I think they're better than Louisville. I think they're better than SMU. So, you know, I think as long as you do the things that you do well, and you know, your guys that you have been making plays for you are making plays.
Right. Now that's not us predicting they're going 12-0.
Yeah, that is not a 12-0 prediction. So
just because I think they're better than everybody on the schedule doesn't mean they're going to beat everybody on the schedule.
Yeah, because the better team doesn't always win. But as it stands right now, I think Clemson is better than every team on their schedule.
Yeah, more often than not, the better team wins, but they don't always win. And it's all about matchups and when it falls in the season and injuries, and you know, there's just too many variables that go into it to just, you know, oh, we're better than everybody, so we should win every game. No, it's not how that works.
No, it's not how that works, unfortunately. Intelligent Savage with a draft question. He says, our Tigers are heading into this weekend's draft. Who gets picked first, and name each of our guys' teams you can see grabbing the Tiger player for their NFL team. When and where for our former Tiger, Andrew Makuba. Oh, that's good. Well, on the Makuba front, I've seen him mocked anywhere from second to third. I think he's going to be, you know, this isn't a great safety class, so I think he'll be one of the better safeties taken. So I could see him going second round for sure. But as far as Clemson players, you know, I don't have a ton of confidence that, you know, some of these guys are going to get picked, but you know, as it stands right now, feel pretty certain Jake Brenningstool gets drafted. I feel pretty certain who am I thinking? Barrett Carter gets drafted.
Yeah, Barrett Carter, Jake Brenningstool, R.J. Mickens, Phil Maffa, all those guys are going to get drafted.
Well, here's my thing. I think R.J. Mickens does get drafted because I also don't think this is a great safety class. But like,
yeah,
he hasn't gotten a ton of love on like the draft circles. Like, not like bad.
Look,
you know,
man,
comments. Like it just seems like no one's talking about it.
But that's the thing is like, why? Look at his PFF grade.
Yeah,
he outperformed like half the people they got like way up on the board. Like, I don't understand.
He was one of the more consistent players in this entire draft. But you know that, and it's funny because it's like even the measurables don't jump off the page, but like he had a good combine. He had one of the top verticals on safeties. He ran a sub 4.5 40. Like, he's not a bad athlete. So it's like, I mean, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know what it is, but he just has not gotten a ton of attention. So I'm not certain for some reason that he's going to get drafted. I think Phil Maffa's draft stock has tanked a good bit, and a lot by no fault of his own. I think he'll get drafted, but it'll be really late. I think it's going to be really late at this point. And I do think Peyton Page will get drafted. Even though this is a really good defensive tackle draft. So I think he might go later in the late rounds as well. So I don't expect a ton of high draft picks for Clemson this year. I honestly, I think the first player that gets taken is Barrett Carter. And I think that's going to be in the mid rounds.
Yeah, I think he's probably a third rounder.
Yeah.
He's probably a third round guy.
So don't expect this to be a stellar draft year, but I mean, you had a lot of guys come back.
Even Barrett Carter, he's been mocked as low as fourth round.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's our high guy, I think.
I think anybody who gets picked for Clemson is going fourth through like third through 7.
Yeah. The best chance we got is Barrett Carter going third round, and then everybody will be 4 through 7.
Yeah.
So, like, if Jake Brenningstool gets selected, he's going to be a late round, like 5, 6.
Yeah.
Who else? RJ Mickens, he's going to be – I mean, I think I've seen him in mock drafts as high as 4th round, but also as low as, like, the 7th round.
Yeah.
So, he's not going to be super high, which, as I mentioned before, doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Let's see. Peyton Page, 6th round at best. Most people got him going undrafted.
Mm.
Let's see who else. Marcus Tate.
I forgot about Marcus Tate.
7th round at best.
Yeah.
Or undrafted, probably undrafted. Wow. I'm just looking at they got Phil Maffa going undrafted.
Yeah. I that was one I had seen, like,
it's a little surprising. There's out of all the agencies, ESPN, The Athletic, NFL.com, PFF, and SB Nation, they all have him going undrafted. Not a single person has him mocked, which is not terrible, right? So, like, if you're going to get picked in the 7th round, it's almost better to be undrafted.
Yeah.
So that you can go find a situation where you're actually needed and you can fit. But it is a little surprising that he's gone from, where he was to, completely undrafted.
Yeah. The back half of the year and the injury concerns, I think that scared a lot of teams off.
So what are we looking at? 3 drafted players?
Yeah, I mean, I
Barrett
feel
Carter, Jake Brenningstool, and RJ Mickens. I feel confident that those 3 will get drafted. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
Peyton Page, maybe.
No Tate.
Marcus Tate, maybe. Phil Maffa. I mean, if you're listening to all the people that predict this stuff, no, he won't be drafted. So, I don't know. 3 out of the 6, I guess that's not bad, but a little surprising on how low some of them are.
Yeah. All right. Y'all going back and forth with Billy Cotton.
Billy Cotton.
I don't know if he's an LSU fan or, honestly, he's probably a South Carolina fan. Knowing our audience.
Cotton, who's your team? Put it in the chat.
Dylan says Barrett Carter's a 2nd round surprise pick, kind of like the surprise pick of Cleveland Farrell was a few years ago.
That was a wild pick, Cleveland Farrell. going. Where did he go? 5th?
4th
overall? 4th?
Yeah, I think 4th. John Gruden, man, he loved Clemson players to a fault.
He did
to the point where, nobody had Clee going that high, but they.
No.
I mean, it was cool for the resume. He had three defensive linemen drafted in the first round that year, but he was the first one, and he ended up being the worst of them by far.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
But Clee is still in the league, man. Like
He is. He
plays.
he was with
He's with the Commanders.
Commanders. Yep.
Yep.
There it is.
And he's carved out a good
Got a nice
spot starter
role.
rotational role.
He's on a 53-man roster. So, I mean, look, that means you're a dang good football player if you're on a 53-man roster in the NFL.
Jay said this year's Clemson should be able to run their offense and not be stopped 80% of the time. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Tig says, what's y'all's thoughts on Cade and the Heisman? I have no thoughts. That's not true, because if you follow me on Twitter, I was really excited to see Cade Klubnik on my screen during the baseball game.
Yeah, so, I mean, look, I love seeing Clemson guys up there for the Heisman. Yeah. We're not going to sit here and pretend like, whatever. But I'm just so belief that it's impossible at this point to win a Heisman Trophy at Clemson. Like, I don't know.
It would be fitting if Cade were the one to do it.
Yeah, if Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson didn't, accomplish that feat, I don't know that we'll ever have anybody at Clemson that does. That's just where I'm at with it. Yeah. Now, Cade is certainly capable of it, but so were those other guys. I would love to see him do it. But again, I have my doubts. And he plays in the ACC. So, strike one against you.
Especially now.
You play in the lowly. Yeah, it's even worse. Like, it wasn't as bad as it is now when Trevor and Deshaun were here. It's even worse now. Like, oh, you play in the ACC? Like, because that's what people will say. Like, let's be realistic about it, right? Let's talk about it. Like, say Cade, at least does the numbers, or let's say he does a little better than the numbers he put up last year, right? They're going to dismiss that partially because, oh, well, look at the competition that Cade plays versus look at the competition that Arch Manning plays or Garrett Nussmeier plays, or name the player, right? I'm just naming a couple people that are at the top preseason. That's going to be a criticism of Cade. Unfair, but it's still going to be a criticism of Cade.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's the same thing they did to Genty last year.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And be like, yeah, thing. But he plays at Boise. So, yeah, no. Like, it's just, I don't know. I would be shocked if Cade Klubnik won the Heisman. Not because I think we won't have an amazing season or that he's incapable of it, just because of all the reasons I just talked about.
Yeah.
But one can hope that one day it happens.
Says, wonder how many LSU players have gone to NFL the past 10 years? Quite a few. I mean, they certainly haven't stopped putting out talent. So I don't know the exact number.
I did see a graphic with the most NFL. Where was that graphic at? It was probably on Twitter. I don't know where it is. The most NFL draft picks. Yeah, the most NFL draft picks all time. Here we go. Let's see. I think Clemson checked in at 26 with 280 NFL draft picks. They were wondering about LSU.
Well, he asked it like the last 10 years.
Oh, I don't know about the last 10 years, but LSU checks in at 8th on the list with 381 all-time draft picks. So,
all right. John says, is there a difference between LSU and Gamecock fans? There's some differences, I'd say, but they have a lot of similarities as well. But
yeah,
I certainly have more tolerance for LSU fans because,
well, we face them a lot less too.
we face them and they actually have something to show for their own program. So
they do have,
when they talk trash,
they do have success. Yes,
they do. Yeah, they do have something to their name.
Right.
They have a lot to their name. So it's like, okay, they have the right to this whole thing. Jay said, with the mystery of the run game, this might be the best chance at a Clemson player doing it. Yeah, I mean, I say so. Like especially early in the year, if you don't, they're going to lean on that. I could see them leaning on that passing game a good bit. So that possibility is there.
Definitely. No shortage of targets for him to throw to either. So
yeah. Oh, what? I'm gonna ignore that other one. Wet socks. He says, in case you have to win your 2 SEC games. That would go a long way.
Oh man.
Heisman is 90% popularity vote. Yeah,
it's more like 98% popularity vote. And 2% stats.
Damn, yeah, those
look, I'm of the opinion that the Heisman has to clean up their voting. Like,
yeah,
they need to minimize the amount of voters, and
strengthen the criteria. Because good Lord,
yeah, there you go. Like
you got this random guy that works for Golf Monthly that watches football
like you just
casually on the weekends, and he gets a Heisman vote.
It's so frustrating too, because you got random people voting for the Heisman that don't even watch or care about college football for the most part. Like, if you put them in a room and quiz them on college football, just that season, I'm not even saying they have to be like college football historian, they would not know a single thing. All they know is whoever ESPN's talking about, or whoever Fox is talking about, or big name outlet, big name college football show is talking about. That's all they know. They don't actually watch any college football games. They don't actually know, what the players are like. So, I mean, in my opinion, for the Heisman to, not that it's not a meaningless trophy, and I don't want to make it seem that way, but for it to become better, they have to clean up the amount of voters, and then the criteria for getting a Heisman vote. And then the criteria that they go by for selecting their Heisman Trophy finalists. I don't know. They could make it better, but they probably won't. So
yeah, they won't. Dylan asks, who will have the better year in the ACC, FSU or Virginia? I'm going to go FSU. And the reason why is because I do think with bringing in Gus Malzahn, I don't love that move, but it does, I think, offer a floor. It raises the floor a good bit in terms of performance offensively. With I think Tommy Castellanos is a good fit for a Gus Malzahn offense. It's not going to be overly explosive, and it's not going to be an offense that's going to be capable of beating the best teams on that schedule. But it does stop them from being in that 2-10 category again. And with Virginia, I think, first of all, their offensive line situation is a mess. It's horrendous. And I don't trust any of their quarterbacks. So, when you put all of that together, I don't think that roster is overly talented. They've had guys transfer out. I don't know. I think Florida State is not as bad as 2-10 as in terms of the roster. And I think that the staff changes they made will in the portal pickups they got. They brought in some high floor, low ceiling type of players that I think will keep them from completely bottoming out like they did last year. So I think Florida State's going to make a bowl game. I don't think they're going much beyond that. I think they're a 6-6, 7-5 team, but I think Virginia is not going to be very good. I don't think they're going to be very good. So I'm going to say Florida State.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Jay says personal opinion. This might be the end of the road for old Tony Elliott. Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not too.
You know, I don't really know what direction they're going as a program. So it's, but you know, crazier things have happened. You know, maybe Virginia they're that team that pops up out of nowhere. But I don't see it based off of that roster. Talking about Gamecock. Oh, Jake Heidbreder just committed to Fresno State. I mean, all right. John also asks, how big of a drop will Syracuse take? I think they'll be lucky to go 500. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about them. They did just pick up Steve Angeli from the transfer portal, from Notre Dame. I think he's a guy that can play a little bit. You know, he's been in college a long time. It gives them an experienced quarterback to plug in there. But they lost Trevor Pena to the portal, their best receiver. LaQuint Allen is gone. Obviously you got to replace.
Were you surprised that Angeli transferred?
No. Because with Notre Dame, I felt it always felt like especially when CJ Carr got there, that it was going to be a battle between him and what's the other kid's name, Kenny Minchie.
Yeah.
Like I think they're the two more talented than Steve Angeli. He had just been in the program longer, and I think it was clear that for Notre Dame, like the coaching staff was like, we're going with the younger, more talented guys, and we thank you for your time, but we don't think you're going to play here. And so, he's like, all right, well, this is because I think Angeli graduates from Notre Dame this semester. So, he's not going to get many opportunities to play again. So, Syracuse makes a lot of sense.
I don't blame him.
I don't think he's a bad quarterback. Like
I thought he was like, a pretty good quarterback when he stepped in. Like, I don't know. That's just me. But
I mean that drive he had against those couple drives he had against Penn State. Those were big time, man.
Big time. Like, I don't know. But hey, I think Syracuse got a pretty, serviceable quarterback there. And they had a huge question mark. So.
All right.
Speaking of quarterback transfers, the Nico and his brother over at UCLA.
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. I know Arkansas
demanded that NIL money back.
Arkansas sitting there like, what? So I'm guessing the plan is Nico plays one more year, goes pro, and then his younger brother takes over at UCLA. Is that the plan?
I guess so. I don't know what the plan is.
Like
UCLA just does anything and everything.
Like, what is UCLA doing, bro?
Yeah.
What are y'all doing?
UCLA needs
Imaliava, or however you say their name, they run your program now?
Yeah.
Is what you're telling me? If you're a UCLA fan, that family runs your program now.
That whole situation is crazy.
And then Aguilar transferring from to there and then to Tennessee. That's a wild.
I'm rooting for. I mean, I'm interested to see how Aguilar does because
you got to kind of root for the guy, right? Like UCLA screwed him over.
Yeah.
I mean, I transfer from App State, right? I go through the spring, and then you just turn around and bring in not one but two quarterbacks.
Yeah, I mean, when you make a guy leave a place where he started, he has a starting job, and then you do that to him, like that's.
I don't know, man. That's look.
I
I
mean,
know it is what it is, and college football is a quote unquote business, and whatever. But I don't know. I just don't like that kind of stuff. This is like you see stuff like college football is off the rails, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, if that doesn't show you that we need structure and leadership in college football, I don't know what does. Like, that is wild. That was a situation that just happened post spring.
all right.
I wouldn't want those guys being my quarterback. I know Nico's talented, but no thanks, dude. No thanks.
All right. Last one, and then we'll go ahead and get on out of here. Tig says, who will Clemson play this year for the ACC championship? Oh, bold assumption to say. Who says Clemson's playing in the ACC championship?
I like it. Hey, put it out there. Speak it into existence, Tiggs. I like it.
I don't know. I mean, I think SMU is going to. I don't think SMU is going to take a huge step back. I know some people do think they will, but I think they're still going to be pretty salty this year. Obviously,
Miami's going to be in that conversation. Yeah. Florida State. I think Louisville could be in that conversation. Maybe even a Georgia Tech. Who knows?
Yeah,
Brent Key can get the boys rolling. I think Georgia Tech is a up and coming. Like, I think Brent Key's got them churning in the right direction. So maybe not this year, but they're on their way, I think.
Dylan mentioned UNC with Gio Lopez from South Alabama. Yeah, I mean that's I don't know what to make of UNC.
I'm I gotta wait and see what they're even like. I have no clue what to expect out of UNC.
They've lost so many players, and then I don't know.
I have no idea. I know they got a million years of coaching experience in the NFL on their coaching staff, but I don't know. We'll see. They are one of the biggest mysteries, I think, as far as what they're going to look like this coming season.
Oh, yeah. All right, I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
All right, guys. 28 people still in the live chat. Hit that like button if you have not already. Consider subscribing. We do this show every Wednesday, 8 p.m., the All-In Show right here, 8 p.m. every single Wednesday. Look forward to talking to you guys. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Instagram. Also, check us out on wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Search Clemson Live. Give us a rate, review, subscribe. All of our content will be on there for you to consume in podcast form. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for being here for yet another episode of the All-In Show. Truly do appreciate each and every one of you that get in the comment section and chop it up with us. But until next time, I'm TPC. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.